So, James, fascinating news. Who'd have thought it? The blue-collar battlers are deserting Albo and the Labor Party. Where have I heard that? Oh, only on this show for about the past 18 months. But yes, finally the pollsters have caught up what we've been telling you all along, James.
Yes, that's right. Another 4-point drop for Labor, according to the latest RedBridge poll, which just dropped today. Some fascinating bits and pieces out of this. Number one, it suggests that Albanese, as we have said on this program for the last year and a half, had spent all of his time on The Voice, and he has nothing left in the tank to fall back on, especially with his working class constituencies. It has found that especially in those supposedly safe Labor outer suburban seats, Western Sydney, Western Melbourne, he's really on the nose, and particularly among working class voters, voters with a TAFE education, the non-basically teals, he's really struggling. And the thing is, we do this all along because, of course, he spent all his time virtue signaling on The Voice, spending all his time hanging out with Alan Joyce and all the corporates and not spending any time out there with the people who are, of course, the traditional Labor voters. And now, Rita and Rowan, he's got cost of living going through the roof. His energy plan has been a disaster. Renewables are cheaper, and yet our power bills keep going up. And everybody's looking down the barrel of potentially yet another interest rate rise on Tuesday, Melbourne Cup Day. He is in a fair bit of trouble, Rita.
Well, yeah, it's not surprising, and this is an opportunity for the coalition. It's an opportunity. We've been telling them for some time that their future isn't in those inner-city, affluent, former blue ribbon Liberal seats. They're gone. That's a trend that's bigger than Australia. You've seen that trend in the UK, in the US. Those affluent seats in the inner city are leaning increasingly left, whether it's Greens, Labor or the Teals in Australia. So those suburbs, regional areas, aspirational Australians, working class Australians who've traditionally leaned towards Labor, they're ripe for the picking. Labor has deserted those people. Not just Albanese in the last 18 months with his Voice obsession and gallivanting around the world, 20 trips in a short period of time. No. This is an opportunity that the coalition needs to seize and recognise. Those are your Australians who are unrepresented really at the moment. Both sides have got this focus on the inner city.
Exactly. Well, this is the problem. This was the huge mistake Morrison and Turnbull made. If you remember, this is a long-term historical trend.
Yes.
We had Howard's battlers, we had Tony's tradies, and now I'm predicting Pete's plumbers will win the next election for the coalition. Pete's plumbers are coming to put the coalition back in power next year. Good riddance. Good riddance to Albo and Penny Wong and Tony Burke. You didn't mention, Rita and James, Tony Burke's insidious loophole regulations, which are destroying jobs, making life a nightmare for small business people, for people trying to get on, build up their own business, open their own cafe, whatever it might be. Labor's red tape, Labor's green tape, Labor's IR tape is destroying productivity in this country. Pete's plumbers will put the coalition back in power next year. You've heard it here first.
And Rowan, there's another issue, too, that's simmering underneath all of that there. You said the magic word productivity. And when we talk about productivity, we also need to talk about another issue that is really hitting the western suburbs, the working class suburbs very hard, and that is immigration. And this, I predict, is the sleeper issue, guys,
100%.
That is going to, if Peter Dutton can work this properly, he's going to bring together two groups of people. Number one, people out in western suburbs, electorates that are having more and more people dumped on them to increase the overall GDP, which goes to the big end of town, but doesn't make any life any better for them.
Makes it worse.
Also, younger voters who are getting screwed by the housing crisis, and you have all of these mid-wit, YIMBY housing economists out there saying, oh, we just need to build more houses for all the migrants, rather than saying, hey, why don't we pause this for a bit and let everybody catch up? This housing issue, this infrastructure issue, this migration issue is going to be huge for the coalition if they can thread the needle on it.
Well, the numbers coming in through, Rowan, are astonishing. We're talking about record numbers here. More than $500,000 a year. Those people need housing. We already have a housing shortage. We've got costs soaring. We don't have enough people working in the sector. We've got building companies going bust. The unions are running amok.
Building approvals are down.
Building approvals are down. The cost of building in this country and the red tape around it is ridiculous. It is so difficult. And yet we're bringing in more than 500,000.
I've got the solution. I've got the solution.
Where are they living
well,
out?
I've got the solution, and the solution is a town on the Molonglo River called Canberra. Canberra could easily cope with 500,000 people because they have nice big houses there. I was born in one of them. I lived in one of them. Nice big houses there. Kevin Rudd lived in my bedroom. You'll remember that story, Rita. Plenty of room. That's where it all started, you bet. Plenty of room there in all those houses in Canberra. I think we could easily fit 500,000 people. Just everyone in Canberra takes one person into their spare bedroom and away you go. And we know from the Voice referendum that the people in Canberra are completely out of touch. The only place in Australia that voted yes to the referendum. Well, I think sharing and getting in touch with real people, not the Canberra bubble, would do an awful, go a long way to educating those public servants about real life in the western suburbs.
And who wouldn't want to be there, you know, for the ACT party lifestyle? But the, but no, seriously, I do think that migration is going to be the sleeper issue because it's going to hit, I 100%. think, the younger voters who have been screwed out of housing by this. Yes, Rita.
But those younger voters are the ones who are voting for Labor and the Greens. Are they going to recognise that the policies they're supporting are a big part of the reason why they can't afford to buy a house, why their roads are clogged, why hospital waiting lists are going to look the way they are.
Because Rita, I'm sorry, the coalition has been just as bad on this, you know. Under Scott Morrison, the coalition was all about big Australia. You know, they were basically letting all the big business chambers set the migration rate. And, you know, it's the business lobby and also the universities lobby, which has this huge number of, I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of people coming into these student visas every year, and a lot of them are from these sort of training colleges, you know, and we know what that means. It's not, you know, this is not really actually adding to the skill set of Australia. It's not adding to the economy of Australia. It's not adding to the productivity of Australia. And it is only when we get productivity up that inflation will come down, that real wages will rise, and life will get better for us. We did it under the Howard, Hawke and Keating eras when we made regulation less, we improved the economy. This government, Albanese, is about turning it back to the pre-reform era. That's why they're having the business changes. That's why they're changing things to make unions more powerful. And that's why the economy is becoming more corporatist every day.
Everything they're doing is making the economy worse, and we're seeing it. Kick Labor out, get rid of them. One of the arguments often put is that, oh, no, the bedwetters and the Libs, ooh, we can't ignore the teal seats because, you know, if we lose the teal seats, well, you lost the teal seats. That didn't work out. They're gone. But here's the thing. There is a pathway back to win back some of those teal seats, and that is the overt support for pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel politics that we've seen from the Teals. Now, I would ask those members of large Jewish communities in all those Teal seats, are you now really pleased that you made that decision? We've seen the principal of a Melbourne Jewish school has written a blistering letter to independent Kooyong MP Monique Ryan, accusing her of unacceptable bias in selectively expressing outrage at the death of children in Gaza rather than the deaths of the 400 Israelis at the hands of Hamas in that grotesque pogrom we saw. We also saw other Teal members clearly favouring the non-Israeli side of issues in this, and that's a question that those Jewish communities in those electorates need to ask themselves. Did you make the right choice? Clearly you didn't.
Two of them sided with Adam Bant and his motion to... that was a bipartisan motion, by the way, of declaring support for Israel and its right to defend itself. And we had, the Tinks and Scamps? That were the two...
I believe so, dissidents, what they wanted to do is they wanted to change the second paragraph of the resolution and to condemn Israel as well. And you know, that didn't play well. But also, just one more point on those seats, there's going to be a redistribution of seats, in New South Wales this year. The seats of North Sydney and Bradfield may very well be merged. They're going to lose a Teal seat, so that also changes the calculus as well.
Really? Yeah. Interesting.